Hello, and welcome to the teacher edition of Steve Barkley Ponders Out Loud. Teaching is a complex and rewarding journey, and I'm always eager to explore the many ways teachers engage students in their learning. This podcast is dedicated to supporting you, the teacher, as you inspire and guide your students. Thanks for joining me. I'm excited you're here. What do you want students to learn through your classroom management approach? As the start of a new school year approaches, it's a great time for teachers to consider how their approach to classroom management not only impacts their classroom environment for content learning, but also what do students learn from being part of that classroom management plan. Dr. Shalaby, the author of Troublemakers, Lessons in Freedom from Young Children at School, identifies that students are constantly learning from what we as adults say or don't say, what we do or don't do, what we have on the walls or don't have on the walls. Every move we make in classroom management is a lesson. Kids are watching us and they're learning. We need to be as intentional in our classroom management curriculum as we are with our other curriculums. Listen in on Dr. Shalaby's comments.
Classrooms are made up of, again, roughly 20 to 40 diverse human beings with different needs, personalities, perspectives, skills and talents, annoying qualities, and these people have to figure out how to share a very small space, lots of time, and few resources. And really, none of them have chosen to be there, except maybe, if you're lucky, the teacher. The inherent challenge of that arrangement is what makes us believe we should have one powerful person solve all the problems through clear rules and external consequences. It's very efficient that way. But that robs everyone of the chance to learn how to manage and work through the predictable, messy, necessary conflicts and issues that arise in community. Therefore, we grow up with none of the requisite skills required to actually be in community with other people, because we have failed to use school as a chance to teach, learn, or practice them. Classrooms are a rare and powerful opportunity to experiment with new, better ways of being together. We can ask, what is the world we want? And how can we practice and try out that world in the daily life of our classroom? We can focus on right relations within a circle of community instead of coercive control by a single person with perceived power. We can decide to practice care instead of practicing rules, so that safety is defined by how well we hold and protect each other instead of how well we are policed by someone with the authority to punish us into compliance. Let's be excited by that as educators, this power that we have to imagine and then to practice the world we want instead of the world we have now.
The idea of planning classroom management as a way for students to gain desired skills and attributes was highlighted in an interview that I conducted with Tim Seller, who has over 4 decades of teaching experience. Tim, a middle school math teacher, shared his initial approach based on his seeing his classroom as a family.
The family exists in their house, and this is their house. It's their room. We spend probably 4 or 5 days at the beginning of the year, and then we kind of refurbish the place periodically as a metaphor for building relationships, changing triad seatings, changing classroom procedures, and as relationships build between students and sometimes they're not building, then, changes need to be made. Everything from the tactical emplacement to the seating chart to who's working with whom. As the facilitator, they have outlined and they have organized from day one, how do we make school cool? And this goes back many, many years. The students have responsibilities, have accountability, and at times lots of structure, but at other times lots of decision making that they make, because the decisions that they make I can reinforce, and then the behaviors, of course, will improve and continue.
How does the word expectations fit into the way you work with students?
Well, I've found out many years ago that if you want to change behavior, you have to find out what motivates them. And motivation, I believe somebody told me long ago, is based on desire. So if we know what their desire levels are, and we can adjust with the motivation methods that they will enjoy as reinforcements, then things fall in place and they know what the expectations are. They know what the procedures are. We've used a type of cooperative learning model that came out of Minnesota many years ago, and it's communication, participation, cooperation, and those three things added together equal reciprocation. And those words have been on my walls for a lot of years. And almost any classroom behavior in our culture is based on those premises of participating, communicating, and cooperating socially, academically, across the board.
So it's expectations and procedures rather than rules.
Don't use that word. No.
I kind of had a feeling. Go ahead. Tell more about that.
Well, students have often been told what they shouldn't do, and I really tend to focus on what they should do. I run a full-blown token economy behavior mod that was cutting edge back in the 70s. And students in the classroom, their jobs or occupations have tokens attached to them. So they are on a constant reinforcement program with think time, pause periods, reinforcement. And at the end of each session, we evaluate the triads, and significant tokens are given out that they use at the school store and some of the school-sponsored programs that this blends and feeds into very nicely. And therefore, students are motivated, excited, and anxious to please.
There's two other words that I pulled from the response that you left on my blog. I was wondering if you'd respond to. And they were problem solving and creative thinking.
Well, when we have issues, social or academic issues, or learning conflicts within our triads, we spend a lot of time with them brainstorming and owning what's happened, because it's their behavior that may need to be adjusted or changed, or they may need to cooperate better with people in their triads, or they need to participate more, because we keep a baseline observation. The students keep a baseline observation every class of responses and positiveness, and is the homework done. They keep a lot of data for me, and that makes them accountable, and it also gives them the opportunity to own what's going on and how they're affecting the climate in the classroom.
Tim, a big word for me when I talk relationships is knowing. The critical element for the teacher to know the students and the students to know the teacher. How do you tackle that kind of issue as a middle school teacher working with 115 students?
Knowing the students and their interest levels and what they enjoy and what they're looking for, that would be some informal surveys at the beginning of the school year That would be from the very first night of open house before the school year started, the parents filled out an information sheet telling me what their student excels at, what they enjoy doing.
Cool.
So got it from the parents, and then students fill things out. And I periodically, I would say as much as once a month, I have a short questionnaire. What's going good? What do they like? What should we change? What adjustments do we need to make? Do they want to move to another triad? Do they need help? Do they need tutoring? A lot of questionnaires, informally and formally, gives me the basis for those.
Tim, it definitely sounds like there's two curriculums in your classroom.
Yes.
The curriculum of math and how would you label what are some of the most important things you want kids to learn from what you might describe as your curriculum of classroom management?
Well, the main thing I want them to experience is choices and decision making that builds character. As one of my signs says here in my classroom, character is how we act when we think no one is watching. And I can step into the hallway with confidence to get a drink of water and return to the doorway in 15 or 20 seconds, and nobody is out of their seats. They're on task. They're talking quietly in their triad. And as my recent evaluator said, he had never seen anything like it. And he immediately scheduled a meeting with the other three principals to share with them some of the things that he observed my students doing. And as a matter of fact, I got another teacher visiting my classroom today to see what's going on and see what's happening. So the kids feel good. And I've already announced to them that we've got another visitor coming because they want to see how beautifully they operate and cooperate. And that's really the heart of it. I'll say to them quite often, maybe you can memorize math and maybe you can handle concepts and procedures, but what's going to be most important is, are you going to be able to appreciate others and build relationships that will move you through the professional world and the social world?
Did you catch Tim's early comment? We spend probably 4 or 5 days at the beginning of the year. Tim sees that as an investment of time that has payoff across the year in students learning both the content curriculum and the classroom management curriculum. Consider the investment of time you want to make in the opening days of school to create the opportunities for students to learn from the classroom management curriculum. I believe that the planning of that classroom management curriculum is at least equal in importance to the planning for your content mastery. Here are some questions you might want to consider as you plan your classroom management curriculum. What are your core beliefs about classroom management and student behavior? What are the primary goals you aim to achieve with your classroom management strategy? What social and emotional skills do you want your students to develop through your approach to classroom management? How do you want students to perceive authority and rules as a result of your classroom management? In what ways do you hope your classroom management approach will influence your students' sense of responsibility and independence? How does your classroom management strategy foster positive relationships between you and your students, as well as among the students themselves? How do you create a classroom environment that encourages mutual respect and understanding? How does your approach to classroom management address the diverse needs of your students? What steps do you take to ensure that your classroom management techniques are fair and equitable for all students. Consider setting some time aside as the year progresses to assess the degree to which your plan is gaining your desired outcomes. Perhaps requesting student input as the year progresses. If you have an instructional coach or a peer coaching colleague, your classroom management can be a great area to request observation and feedback on. Remember Dr. Shalaby's statement: every move we make in classroom management is a lesson. Kids are watching us and they're learning. Here's wishing you a great start on your new school year. Thanks for listening, folks. I'd love to hear what you're pondering. You can find me on Twitter or LinkedIn at Steve Barkley, or send me your questions and find my videos and blogs at barkleypd.com.